Guys, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification button to get the notifications for when new videos such as Smokecasts will be coming out. And you're about to be witness to another one. Yes. And why am I putting out a Smokecast on a Sunday? Well, first of all, the Smokecast series does not follow a schedule, a weekly schedule, okay? I put them out when I feel like it because my creative process as a creator is very non-linear, okay? That comes with the territory of being a philosopher, okay? You're just gonna have to live with that, accept that, learn to deal with that. And why am I bringing this up at the start of the video? Why am I not roping you in by saying the specific topic? And that's because timing is essential in life. And one of the biggest obstacles in this life, aside from the labor of maintaining your corporeal organism, of putting food into your mouth and wiping your ass and stuff like that, it's the stress. All right, the number one killer right now out there in the world, aside from dangerous diseases and stuff like that, is stress, is what they're saying. Something I heard being said. And as far as dangerous diseases go, being stressed makes you more susceptible to getting such strange diseases that might screw up your life or even end it. Okay. Now, what am I, the philosopher, going to tell you about stress? Seems like I live a pretty stress-free life out here in the forest, gazing upon the sun. Yes, through the trees. It's almost wind quiet today. But in between these little seances, I too, your beloved guide on the spirit quest, which is hopefully unfolding as you are glued to the screen watching my content. In between these windows of tranquility, I also have to fight the dragon of stress. It's unavoidable. And and you might think to yourself, that was a 6-4 snot, by the way. And you might think to yourself, isn't this restless thinker, isn't he always trying to find out what's the cause of his stress? Certainly it must be other people, other ways of thought, other things, everyone else's fault. No, my dear viewer. It may or may not be. Alright? You have stress hormones just like you have pleasure hormones in your brain. Alright? They're used for things. They have a function. Okay? You wouldn't be able to get out of bed in the morning if it wasn't for cortisol. Alright? You wouldn't be able to quit drinking because of the intense guilt and shame of the hangover without cortisol. Alright? Just as you wouldn't be motivated to do things without dopamine. But you can't have just one or the other. Just like we've been talking about a lot in these videos, one is conditioned by the other, one is dependent on the other. You can't have pleasure without pain. and so you're bound to feel stress in life. And so the only person who can do anything about your stress is you. And you can talk about breathing exercises. I mean, that's rule number 1 of the 12 rules, if you want to know. Nose breathing, okay? It doesn't have to be specifically yogic, like my colleague Roger the God. You should check his channel out. Roger, if you're watching this, I'm shouting you out right now, trying to get you some more hype. And you know, if other fellow philosophers are watching this, I think we should build a network here on YouTube and help each other grow. But also, most importantly, aside from any sort of glimmering promise of success, you know, we should discuss ideas, you know, really lean into the fate that we have chosen as philosophers here in this life. And that relates to stress management. Lean into your fate. Accept it. Grow from it. It's a glorious quest, perhaps. Now, it's easy to see, easy to say. Sitting here on a downed log, you know, people might be living through all kinds of insanely complicated and emotionally tasking situations out there. Okay, I'm not turning a blind eye to that. Okay, I have my stuff to deal with, but I recognize that other people have stuff to deal with that might, you know, make even the worst case scenario you're able to think of in your head right now look like a cakewalk. So, you know, it's all a matter of perspective, but that doesn't really leave us anywhere in terms of, you know, usefulness. And I have to delve into what some would call a sinful realm of kind of like stepping in the salad, as we say, of trying to create something out of this word salad that can give the viewer a spark of motivation, perhaps if only a minute of calm, of being able to collect their thoughts, because, you know, we're all in this together, I think. Insofar as we have belly buttons, you know, we're all born into this world, and we're all headed against that clock, you know, against that eternal sleep, that eternal horizon. And, you know, I'm probably gonna have to deal with some stress making this move rather than being safe in all my statements. And, you know, being more priestly in my statements. You know, I'm probably gonna have to deal with some stress just from that. Just from knowing that I put myself out there, telling the viewer to pick up their sword and pick up their shield and face the dragon of stress, to march the eternal march that has been marched by their ancestors and their ancestors before them, while nonchalantly grabbing a smoke out of my smoke pack, because I almost forgot we're making a Smokecast up in this. Alright? What's your favorite little guilty pleasure, viewer? What's your favorite sin? Because, you know, I could try to grovel and be like, well, it's just a cigarette, you know. I've quit drinking now, so I'm having a few cigarettes a day, sue me. But still, you know, I'm ruining my perfectly good health. I'm setting a bad example for the kids. This creates litter, puts chemicals into the atmosphere. although the atmosphere is chemicals. You know, it's interesting to think about statements like that. It's like, you know, like everything is chemicals, you know. You're putting water into the chemicals, you're putting chemicals into the water. I mean, you know, give me one thing that isn't, whose existence cannot be, you know, dictated through chemical reactions. I'm not saying material determinism, you know, because then stress wouldn't be a problem. We'd all just take a pill for it. That's essentially all of us being on drugs, which seems to be the best option that medicine has to offer these days. Especially considering that, you know, anything considered alternative or something like that gets defunded, and a lot of it is just scams as well. You know, you gotta be wary of cults and shit. That's why I'm making this. Okay? You don't have to pay to watch this. Alright? You don't even have to watch it. You can't blame me for the fact that you're a young, intelligent person at the right place at the right time, watching what you need to watch in order for us to push things forward in a world where intelligence has become artificial, beauty has become deceitful, or has it perhaps always been? Happiness has become hollow, sorrow superficial, and truth, authenticity, they seem to have abandoned us like a past lover, or like someone that made you feel safe. But alas, we must find courage in the face of this. And that's what we're doing. And so take it one step at a time. I'm not trying to tell the viewer to clean up his act. Okay? You'll figure out whatever level of clean you can sustain. Alright, these are material factors. But change is the only constant. Alright? You are a chemical putting yourself into other chemicals that are constantly changing. And that is the only thing that doesn't change. Hence why any sort of framework of reality has to base itself in a paradox, because it is paradoxical to be alive at all. That's why we feel a sense of awe in the presence of existence. And being more in the presence of existence is how we fight, step by step, inch by inch, against the dragon of stress, which causes inertia, causes, you know, depression, self-alienation, insanity, madness. At the very end of the line, and we have to stay vigilant. We simply have to keep on rocking in the free world. And I will keep rocking. Just make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like, so we can get this message out there. And if you're a fellow philosopher like my man Roger the God, leave a comment down below. You know, put yourself out there. We're building a network, a society. Airplane over here. Aeroplane. Aeroplane. But yeah, it's a bit hard to get the words out today because I have been stressing a lot for some reason, for no reason. You just gotta remember that, you know, maybe your stress can maybe you taking a stance against stress can help others. And we will never reach a point where we will become completely stress-free, because it's a part of your brain chemistry. But if we stay courageous, we can lead by example, and we can make this work. Even when things seem hopeless, life finds a way. Alright guys, as I'm finishing my cigarette, that about concludes this episode right here. It might not have been my strongest, it might have been my strongest. I don't know. I don't really know until I watch it back and then see the response to it. But I can see that we're getting some more traffic. And I'm stoked about it. Look at how stoked I am. I'm stoked up. So yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe in the doobly-doo. And I'll see you in the next Smokecast. Keep on rocking, baby. You know what time it is. And I'll roll it.